How did you realize your closest friend was actually responsible for ruining your life? I found the recording on my husband's laptop 3 weeks after he filed for divorce. I wasn't snooping, just looking for tax documents our lawyer needed. The file was labeled Budget 2019, but when I opened it, I heard Megan's voice. My best friend of 15 years talking to someone on the phone about how she'd finally convinced David that I was having an affair. She sounded proud, excited even. She described in detail how she'd been sending anonymous messages to David for 6 months, creating fake email accounts, photoshopping timestamps on innocent text messages I'd sent to male colleagues. Her voice was cheerful as she explained how she'd planted lingerie that wasn't mine in our bedroom closet, how she'd made sure David found hotel receipts in my car from business trips where she'd used my credit card without permission. The recording was 43 minutes long. I sat frozen at David's desk, listening to my best friend methodically explain how she'd destroyed my marriage. She laughed when whoever was on the other end asked if she felt bad. Why would I feel bad? She has everything. The perfect husband, the perfect house, the perfect career. She doesn't deserve any of it. I called my lawyer immediately. Sharon picked up on the second ring. I told her I'd found proof that someone had deliberately sabotaged my marriage, that my best friend had manufactured evidence of an affair that never happened. Sharon told me to make 3 copies of the recording right now before doing anything else. Send one to her email, one to cloud storage, and keep the original file exactly where I found it. Don't tell anyone, not even David yet. We needed to be strategic about how we use this. I did exactly what she said, my fingers fumbling over the keyboard. I watched the files upload while Megan's voice continued in my headphones. She was talking about her next steps now, how she planned to befriend David after the divorce was final, how she'd always thought he was too good for me anyway, how she deserved someone like him after her own failed relationships. My stomach turned. This wasn't just about destroying my marriage. This was about taking my husband. I spent the next 2 hours listening to the entire recording. Megan had been planning this for over a year. She'd started small, making comments to David about how distracted I seemed, how I was always on my phone, how I was working late more often. She'd volunteered to help him plan my surprise birthday party last year specifically so she could access my calendar and plant seeds of doubt about my schedule. She'd created fake dating profiles using photos of me and sent screenshots to David from burner phones. She'd even hired someone to call our house pretending to be a hotel confirming a reservation I never made. Every fight David and I had over the past year, every argument about trust, every moment of tension had been manufactured by the person I trusted most in the world, the person who'd been my maid of honor, the person who'd held me when my mother died, the person I'd helped through her divorce, letting her stay in our guest room for 3 months. I'd given her keys to our house, access to our lives, and she'd used all of it to systematically dismantle everything I'd built. Sharon called me back an hour later. She'd listened to the recording and said this changed everything about the divorce. We could use this to prove David had filed under false pretenses based on manufactured evidence. But first we needed to understand the full scope of what Megan had done. Sharon asked if there was anything else, any other area of my life that had fallen apart recently. I started thinking. My promotion had fallen through 6 months ago after my boss received an anonymous complaint about my work performance. I'd lost a major client around the same time due to allegations of missed deadlines that I knew I'd met. My sister had stopped speaking to me last year after someone told her I'd said terrible things about her husband, things I never said. I'd blamed bad luck and misunderstandings. Now I wondered if Megan had been behind all of it. Sharon told me to document everything I could remember. We were building a case not just for the divorce but potentially for a civil suit. I started going through my phone and email that night. I found dozens of messages from Megan over the past 2 years that now read completely differently. Are you sure David isn't bothered by how much you work? I saw David having coffee with someone today. Looked pretty cozy. You know, if you ever needed to talk about problems in your marriage, I'm here. Every message was designed to plant doubt or gather information she could use. I found texts where I'd confided in her about arguments David and I were having. She'd screenshot those conversations and apparently sent edited versions to David to make me look worse. I found emails where she'd offered to pick things up for me from the store, trips where she must have used my credit card to make purchases at hotels I'd never been to. She'd been in our house constantly, had access to everything. I thought about all the times she'd offered to help organize my office, to water plants when we were out of town, to grab my mail. She'd been collecting information and planting evidence the entire time. My phone rang at midnight. It was David. His voice sounded strange. He said he'd noticed his laptop had been accessed and wanted to know if I'd been going through his files. I made a split-second decision. I told him yes. I'd been looking for tax documents and found something he needed to hear. I asked him to come over tomorrow so we could talk with Sharon present. David was silent for a long moment. Then he asked if this was about Megan. My heart stopped. I asked what he meant. David said, "To see the full story, click the link below or go on my channel."